what's important to understand now, which is not common in any analysis of the economy, is that the United States and its allies have created a global taxation system. And the way it works, Alex, is we print paper, whether it's dollar bills or treasuries, and then other governments around the world or central banks around the world buy that paper, and the paper goes down in value. So it's a taxation system through the balance sheet. No legislature, every country in the world hasn't passed a law saying, okay, we're going to pay a 5% tithe to the United States empire every year. But in fact, that's what's happening through the currency systems.
And now by the devaluation, the tax is increasing.
Right. The tax is increasing, and what we're watching just in the last 2 weeks with various people around the world squawking is they're squawking because the subsidy that needs to be extracted every year is greater and greater, and the pain of the taxation as the economy slows down is greater and greater.
Unbelievable. Continue breaking down this global government architecture. When you were talking about this 10 years ago, the media would still poo-poo it. Now they're admitting world government is here, but simultaneously, if you then say, oh, I don't want to be part of it, they say, this person's insane. It doesn't exist. I want to get your take on that. Amazing. Catherine Austin Fitts. Catherine Austin Fitts is our guest. Solari.com. Incredible videos, articles, information, investing advice. We'll get some of that from her coming up before she leaves us. Solari, SOLARI.com. Links up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Of course, we're simulcasting at PrisonPlanet.tv right now. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. Catherine, I'm going to try to just sit back and let you roll now because I want to hear what you think is most important and where all this is going and how we protect ourselves. But just to realize that open world government's being established, a financial predatory dictatorship that wants us poor and easily controlled, openly being stated, a fake green tyranny, all of this is being set up, and we're not even having a national debate about it. They're just announcing with one hand, world government is here and it's good, and then with the other hand saying, if you talk about it, you're a dangerous kook, it doesn't exist. Can you talk about that?
Well, I don't know anybody who says you're a kook if you talk about that. I mean, I never get called a kook.
No, I know you don't get called a kook by the public because right. Ban Ki-moon's in the New York Times calling for global governance.
Well, but
here's an example since you said it. I had CBS News, Jerusalem Post, ADL, Salon, yesterday all attack me and say I'm insane, none of it exists.
Well, planet Earth divides up into what I call the pro-centralization team and the pro-decentralization team. And if you look at how the money works, Alex, the economy has been steadily centralizing more and more money, and so more and more people are on the dole. They're on the payroll of the pro-centralization team. So, when somebody who's making money on something attacks me for in whatever way. I mean, in Washington, we used to just call them the attack poodles. So when the attack poodles tell you you're crazy, that's what they're paid to do. It's a game. It's not real.
And they know they're lying.
Yeah, they know that. One of the things that's so amazing to me is you see more and more people just, they can't keep a straight face even when they're saying it. I was watching the clip this morning of the Attorney General announcing the Financial Fraud Task Force. I mean, talk about projection. So, and he literally, it looked to me like he couldn't keep a straight face. So, these guys know it, but it's a game. And the rest of us are on the pro-decentralization team, and part of the challenge is we have not yet created a vision of where the alternative is. And let me talk about one of the places that we're stuck, because this is so important. Have I ever? You probably don't know my very famous red button story. I was giving a speech to a group of people called Spiritual Frontiers Foundation International, and they have a conference once a year, Alex, where they go and sit in the woods for a couple days and talk about how they can help our society evolve spiritually. So a friend of mine had asked me to give them a speech called How the Money Works in Organized Crime, and it later became a very famous article called Narco Dollars for Beginners, and it's designed to
I've read it.
Right. It's designed to explain the intersection of narcotics trafficking, organized crime, and government and big corporations. Anyway, so sort of Wall Street in Washington does drug money. So I'm in the middle of the speech, and I'm explaining the fact we're talking about the Dark Alliance allegations and the 2 hearings that Congress had on CIA drug dealing in South Central L.A. And I mentioned at the time a reporter that I was helping was told by the Department of Justice that the U.S. economy launders $500 billion to $1 trillion a year of $500 billion to $1 trillion of all dirty money. So that's narcotics trafficking, illegal gambling, tax evasion, everything. So I said to this wonderful group of 100 spiritually evolved, committed people, what would happen if we stopped being the global leader in money laundering? And they said, well, the money would go to other stock exchanges, so the New York Stock Exchange would go down and our mutual funds would go down, and we'd have trouble rolling over the government deficit, so we'd have, our taxes might go up and our government checks might stop. And I said, okay, let's pretend there's a big red button up here on the lectern. And if you push that button, you can stop all hard narcotics trafficking in your county, your state, your country tomorrow, thus offending the people who control $500 billion to $1 trillion a year. Who here will push the button? And this was the summer of 2000. Out of 100 people dedicated to evolving our society spiritually, guess how many would push the button?
How many?
1. 1 would push the button. The other 99 would not. I said, why would you not push the button? They said, we don't want our government checks to stop and we don't want our mutual funds to go down.
And that's the trap. That's how evil gets you dependent on them. And the police all know the government brings in most of the drugs, but they have to keep buying the delusion of busting kids and putting them in prison. If you decriminalize the drugs, the money would dry up, the crime would leave it, and the ODing would stop, and the drug abuse would plunge. All the studies prove it. Stay with us.